Part 1. The Buried Taboo. Machiavelli's Ghost and the Unspoken Truth of the Power Game. Men are so simple and so much creatures of habit that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. Niccolò Machiavelli. This whisper from over 500 years ago, like a flash of lightning tearing through the night sky, still echoes in the halls of power today. It did not come from the mouth of a gentle philosopher, but from an intellectual titan whose name is inextricably linked with evil, cunning, and ruthlessness, Machiavelli. His ideas, like Pandora's box, once opened, release truths that are as unsettling as they are undeniable. Welcome to a realm of knowledge that has been deliberately forgotten. Here, we will peel back the warm veils of morality, layer by layer, to confront the raw, naked mechanics of human nature and power. For centuries, we have been indoctrinated with an idealistic worldview, that power is a sacred grant, a trust bestowed by the people, a reward for virtue. Yet Machiavelli, the Florentine diplomat and political thinker, used his cold, incisive pen to paint a starkly different picture. Power, he argued, is never given, it is taken. While most philosophers were sequestered in their ivory towers, tirelessly debating how the world should be, Machiavelli cast his sharp gaze upon how the world actually works. Like a detached surgeon, he wielded a language as precise as a scalpel, dissecting the intricate and complex machinery of human society to reveal the cold, unforgiving gears of power hidden beneath elegant etiquette and grandiose rhetoric. His insights were so shocking that the term Machiavellian was from its inception branded with the mark of evil, becoming a synonym for conspiracy, betrayal, and cold-hearted pragmatism. For centuries, his masterwork, The Prince, was banned and condemned by moralists, as if sealing it away could make its uncomfortable truths disappear. But can the truth ever be truly buried? Today, as we examine our world from the volatile stage of global politics to the treacherous battlegrounds of commerce, and even to the intricate web of our personal relationships, we must admit that Machiavelli's ghost has never left us. His strategies, his insights, like invisible strings, continue to silently manipulate the very fabric of our lives. The celebrated politicians, the brilliant business tycoons, even that colleague in your office who always seems to get their way without making a sound their patterns of behavior, to some degree, all shimmer with the reflections of Machiavellian thought. This is no exaggeration. What Machiavelli revealed was not merely how a prince governs a state, but the fundamental logic of how human beings are led, influenced, and, yes, manipulated. This is the art of slaying dragons kept secret by the powerful, the forbidden knowledge they pray the common person will never grasp. For once we understand this logic, we gain the ability to see through the fog, to perceive the unvarnished truth. We cease to be mere pawns on a chessboard, and instead gain the potential to become players of the game. Today, we embark on this journey to uncover that forbidden wisdom. We will brush away the dust of history to confront the dark truths about human nature that mainstream society has so carefully avoided. We will explore the primal forces that have driven human behavior, largely unchanged, for the last 500 years. This journey may make you uncomfortable. It may even shatter your existing beliefs, but it will also grant you a new set of eyes, allowing you to re-examine this world, woven from power and desire, with unprecedented clarity. Are you ready? Let us step together into the fascinating and perilous labyrinth of Machiavelli's mind. Part 2. The Code of Human Nature, Unveiling the Truth of Self-Deception and Primal Desires. To master Machiavelli's power game, we must begin with the cornerstone of his philosophy, a cold, unflinching insight into human nature. This is not the complaint of a cynic, but a realistic analysis, stripped of all emotional varnish. Machiavelli's true genius lies not in inventing sophisticated techniques of manipulation, but in his courage to tear down every facade of pretense and gaze directly into the true face of humanity, a complex amalgam of contradictions, desires, and irrationality. His contemporaries were accustomed to painting humanity with an idealistic brush, casting them as noble beings who pursue truth, aspire to virtue, and make rational choices. The humans in their writings seemed destined for Plato's Republic. But Machiavelli mercilessly burst this beautiful bubble. He taught us that to understand power, one must first understand people. And to understand people, one must see them for what they actually are, not for what they wish they were. The fundamental drivers of human nature: fear and self-interest. According to Machiavelli's observations, human behavior, no matter how elegantly wrapped in the cloak of morality, is driven by two primal and potent forces: fear and self-interest. This may sound harsh, but take a moment to reflect. Of the countless choices we make each day, how many are genuinely born from lofty moral principles, and how many are the result of a cold calculation of our own benefits and an avoidance of potential risks? Machiavelli would argue that so-called morality, loyalty, and friendship are, in many instances, merely tools serving the ultimate goal of self-interest. When these virtues clash with personal gain, the latter almost invariably triumphs. A classic example is the phenomenon of the workplace sycophant, those employees who publicly sing the praises of their superiors and pledge unwavering loyalty as their behavior truly motivated by genuine respect. Machiavelli would tell you it is far more likely a shrewd survival strategy. Through public flattery, they send the signal, "I am on your side," in exchange for more resources, faster promotions, or to avoid the risk of being marginalized. In private, however, their complaints and criticisms of the very same superiors may be sharper than anyone's bullies. This stark contrast in behavior perfectly illustrates how self-interest drives human performance. Irrationality and short-sightedness, blinded by immediate gains. Beyond self-interest, Machiavelli identified another fatal flaw in human nature: irrationality and short-sightedness. In The Prince, he wrote, "Men in general judge more by the eyes than by the hands, for everyone can see, but few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." This statement precisely reveals how easily humans are deceived by appearances, how we are predisposed to focus on immediate, tangible benefits while ignoring long-term, potential consequences. Our brains are hardwired with various cognitive biases. The availability heuristic makes us more susceptible to vivid, concrete information that is easily recalled, causing us to neglect more important but abstract statistical data. The confirmation bias leads us to seek out and interpret information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. These cognitive shortcuts mean that when faced with complex decisions, humans often opt for the simplest, least mentally taxing path. A politician promising an immediate tax cut is often more popular than one who advocates for a complex economic reform package, even if the latter's plan is more beneficial for the country's long-term health. A retailer offering a 30-day no-questions-asked return policy is more effective at overcoming a consumer's hesitation, even though very few of us actually go through the trouble of returning the product. It is precisely this insight into human weakness that led Machiavelli to his infamous conclusion: a deceiver will always find someone willing to be deceived. The subtext is that the success of deception often depends less on the deceiver's brilliance and more on the deep-seated desire within the deceived: believe. They crave simple answers, immediate gratification, and the comforting lies that make them feel good. Echoes in history and modern reality. Throughout history, such examples are abundant. From the Roman politicians who used bread and circuses to pacify the masses, to modern election candidates who use carefully crafted slogans and image engineering to win votes, the underlying logic is the same. They exploit the public's desire for instant gratification and aversion to complexity, trading simple promises and sensory stimulation for political support. In the world of commerce, this exploitation of human nature has been perfected. Luxury brands sell not just products, but status symbols and the satisfaction of vanity. Social media platforms, with their meticulously designed algorithms, prey on our craving for social validation and instant feedback, keeping us hooked and endlessly scrolling. The success of these business models is built upon a profound understanding and clever application of the human weaknesses Machiavelli exposed. Therefore, the first and most crucial lesson Machiavelli teaches us is to abandon our unrealistic illusions about human nature. Only when we acknowledge and understand that human beings are fundamentally irrational, short-sighted creatures driven by fear and self-interest can we hope to see through the elaborate deceptions and manipulations around us. Only then can we maintain a clear head in the game of power and make judgments that are truly in our own best interest. This is not a call to become cynical, but to become a realist. For in this world, the greatest danger often comes not from our declared enemies, but from the unexamined weaknesses of our own human nature. Part 3. The Art of Performance. The Laws of Power for Mastering Appearances and Shaping Perception. Having deciphered the underlying code of human nature, Machiavelli unveils the second core principle of the power game, the masterful command of appearances and the deliberate shaping of perception. If human nature is the soil of power, then perception management is the art of planting seeds, cultivating the field, and ultimately harvesting control. One of Machiavelli's most unsettling insights is his treatment of morality itself as a tool to be wielded and a performance to be staged. His famous declaration that a prince must be as cunning as a fox and as fierce as a lion carries a deeper meaning. A successful wielder of power must be a consummate actor. They must be able to don different masks for different occasions, projecting different virtues, all in service of one ultimate goal: to consolidate and expand their power. Appearance over substance. All the world's a stage. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. This maxim once again highlights the primacy of appearance. In a world of information asymmetry, where people overwhelmingly judge by what they see, how you appear is often more decisive than who you are. A successful leader must understand this profoundly. They must publicly project the qualities of mercy, piety, integrity, uprightness, and humanity, even if they do not possess them internally. Why? Because the populace needs an idol worthy of their trust and devotion. They need to believe their leader is morally superior. This psychological need for a virtuous ruler creates a vast stage for the powerful to perform upon. Machiavelli bluntly states that a prince must not only have these virtues, but, more importantly, must appear to have them. In reality, consistently practicing every virtue is not only impractical but can be detrimental. A prince who is always merciful may invite disorder by being too lenient with transgressors. A prince who is always honest may be outmaneuvered in diplomacy by being too transparent. Therefore, a shrewd leader must learn to act contrary to these virtues when necessity dictates, while simultaneously and skillfully maintaining their public image of high moral standing. This is the essence of selective virtue. It requires the powerful to be like a chameleon, adapting their moral coloration to suit the changing environment. When it is time to show mercy to win hearts, they can be magnanimous. When it is time to display an iron fist to deter enemies, they can become ruthless. This ability to fluidly navigate the moral spectrum is a core skill of the Machiavellian practitioner. The power of symbols, shaping perception through action. Perception management is not confined to words and images. It is most powerfully expressed through carefully designed actions. Machiavelli knew that a symbolic act often carries far more weight than 1,000 words. He advised princes to periodically undertake great enterprises and perform striking deeds to keep the populace in a state of awe and expectation. The actual practical outcome of these actions is often secondary to the symbolic message they convey. For instance, a new CEO might launch a dramatic, seemingly radical reform initiative. With great fanfare, even if the plan is not fully formed, the primary goal is to send a powerful message: I am a decisive and transformative leader. This symbolic action can rapidly build a strong leadership persona in the minds of employees and investors. In modern politics, this strategy is ubiquitous. A politician rushes to the scene of a disaster, even if their practical contribution is minimal. The very act of being there is a potent symbol that communicates empathy and responsibility to the electorate. In contrast, officials who work quietly behind the scenes to coordinate resources and achieve more substantive results often go unnoticed, their efforts failing to translate into political capital. This is the logic of outcome-based judgment. Most people do not scrutinize the complex processes or true intentions behind an action. They are far more concerned with the final, visible result and its emotional impact. Consequently, a leader who can consistently manufacture the appearance of success, even if the path was filled with gambles and uncertainties, will often earn more trust and support than a leader who is methodical, but whose results are less spectacular. Information control, shaping the world they see. The highest level of mastering appearances is controlling the flow of information. A true master of power understands that information itself is a form of power. By controlling what others are allowed to know, you can, to a large extent, shape their perceptions and beliefs. This does not necessarily mean telling outright lies, which carries the high risk of exposure. More sophisticated techniques include selective emphasis and strategic timing. When releasing a corporate earnings report, a PR team will highlight the most impressive figures while burying unfavorable data in complex jargon and footnotes. When a government needs to announce an unpopular policy, it might choose to do so at a time when public attention is fixated on another major event, thereby minimizing the negative backlash. The modern public relations industry is, in many ways, built entirely on these Machiavellian principles. Through meticulously planned media campaigns, clever agenda setting, and the filtering and packaging of information, they craft an idealized public image for their clients, be they politicians, corporations, or celebrities, and steer public opinion in a desired direction. For the average person, understanding this is critical. We are bombarded daily with a deluge of information, most of which has been curated and processed in some way. The angle of a news story, the trending topics on social media, the slogans in an advertisement hall are attempts to shape our perception. Without critical thinking, without an awareness of the potential chasm between appearance and reality, we risk becoming casualties in someone else's perception management game. Machiavelli teaches us that the world of power is a grand stage, and on it, we are all both spectators and actors. Learning to recognize the performances of others, while mastering some basic performance skills to protect ourselves, is an essential tool for survival and advancement in this complex world. This is not an endorsement of hypocrisy, but a reminder to maintain a healthy skepticism of what we see and hear, to strive to uncover the reality beneath the surface, and in doing so, to guard the sovereignty of our own thoughts and judgments. Part 4. The Modern Prince, Wielding the Levers of Fear and Love, and Our Place in the Game. We have explored Machiavelli's cold dissection of human nature and his masterful use of perception management. Now, we arrive at the most controversial and central part of his philosophy: how to strike the perfect balance of power between the ultimate forces of fear and love. This is not merely a dilemma for 16th century princes. It is an eternal predicament for every one of us navigating the power structures of modern society. The eternal tug of war, fear versus love. Machiavelli posed a question that remains fiercely debated to this day. Is it better to be loved than feared, or feared than loved? His answer was unequivocal. If one cannot be both, it is far safer to be feared than loved. This conclusion is so unsettling because it completely upends our traditional, sentiment-based notions of leadership. We are taught to believe that a good leader should be a benevolent patriarch, winning the loyalty of their subordinates through affection and care. Machiavelli, however, with his chillingly realistic logic, tells us that love is an exceptionally volatile foundation for power. Love, he argues, is built upon a chain of obligation. People will love you as long as you can continuously bestow benefits upon them. But human nature is fickle and ungrateful. Once you can no longer provide those benefits, or once they find someone who can offer more, that love will quickly evaporate. The adoration of your subordinates often comes with an insatiable appetite for more from you. When their expectations are not met, love can easily curdle into resentment. Fear, by contrast, is far more reliable. Fear is built upon a dread of punishment. As long as the threat of punishment remains credible and consistent, the obedience it commands will endure. Machiavelli observed that men have fewer qualms about offending one who is loved, because love is seen as forgivable. But they will hesitate to betray one who is feared. for the dread of punishment is a Damoclean sword that hangs eternally over their heads. The art of fear, the red line of hatred. However, Machiavelli was not advocating for a reign of brutal terror. He made a crucial distinction here. Being feared is not the same as being hated. A wise wielder of power must inspire fear, but must at all costs avoid inspiring hatred. Fear arises from a respect for strength and the certainty of rules. When people believe that breaking the rules will inevitably lead to swift and just punishment, they will fear the consequences and thus maintain order. Hatred, on the other hand, is born from arbitrary, unjust, and predatory acts that violate people's fundamental interests. Machiavelli specifically warns a prince to avoid two things, above all, seizing the property of his subjects and violating their women. Property and family are the core interests of most people. Once this red line is crossed, fear instantly transforms into an irreconcilable hatred. A ruler who is hated by all his people stands on perilously thin ice, as they will stop at nothing to bring about his downfall. Therefore, what Machiavelli advocates is a principled fear. It means establishing clear rules, enforcing them consistently, and being resolute. Punishment should be severe, but predictable and rule-based, not based on the ruler's whims. This predictable severity effectively builds authority while preventing the rise of widespread hatred. Modern levers of power. These ideas are astonishingly applicable to modern society. In corporate management, a manager who is merely a nice guy and never enforces discipline often presides over a team that is lax and inefficient. In contrast, a manager who sets clear performance metrics, strictly adheres to a system of rewards and consequences, and maintains a professional distance, is more likely to earn the respectful fear of their team and ultimately lead them to success. They may not be loved, but they will be respected. In personal relationships, the same principle holds. The person who has no boundaries and constantly compromises is often taken for granted and exploited. The person who can clearly articulate their needs and limits, and who is willing to respond decisively when those limits are crossed, is the one who earns lasting respect. Even in self-management, we can apply this logic. A healthy fear of failure can be a powerful motivator for hard work and self-improvement. Conversely, excessive self-indulgence and an avoidance of difficulty will ultimately lead to a life of mediocrity. How should we position ourselves? At this point, you may feel a profound sense of unease. Is understanding these naked mechanisms of power a form of moral corruption in itself? Are we all doomed to be either the hunter or the hunted in this world of calculation and manipulation? Machiavelli's own answer is perhaps more nuanced and tragic than we might expect. He wrote, "A man who wishes to make a profession of goodness in everything must necessarily come to grief among so many who are not good." Behind this statement lies a deep pragmatism and a clear-eyed acceptance of reality. He is not championing wickedness, but rather issuing a stark warning that pure idealism is tragically fragile in the face of a harsh world. This world will always contain those who will use these principles without hesitation for their own gain. To be ignorant of these principles does not grant you immunity. It makes you the most vulnerable target. Therefore, the ultimate practical question is not whether to engage with Machiavellian thought, but how to use it. We can choose to be clear-eyed idealists. We understand the rules of the world, we see the weaknesses of human nature, but this does not mean we must abandon our own moral compass. On the contrary, it is because we understand these dynamics that we can more effectively defend our principles and protect ourselves and those we care about from the manipulations of others. We can treat Machiavelli's insights as a powerful defensive weapon. When we can identify others attempting to control us by manufacturing fear, exploiting our self-interest, or shaping our perception, we are empowered to resist and counter their efforts. We can learn to show mercy strategically, to be sincere, selectively, and to uphold our principles while also knowing when to employ certain tactics for our own protection. Ultimately, power itself is neutral. It can be used for good or for evil. What Machiavelli did was provide us with an incredibly detailed and brutally honest map of the world of power. Possessing this map does not compel you to walk a path of darkness. It can, however, help you navigate the path toward the light, avoiding the fatal traps and hidden reefs along the way. In an age of information overload, clashing ideologies, and ever-present power struggles, Machiavelli's wisdom is more relevant than ever. It is a mirror that reflects the darker corners of human nature, but also illuminates the possible paths for survival and progress in this complex world. The choice, in the end, is yours. Will you remain in ignorance, a passive subject of fortune? Or will you arm yourself with this 500-year-old arsenal of thought and actively shape your own destiny? This perhaps is the most profound and timeless question Machiavelli has left for our era.